I want to talk about some ideas on how I find my videos to come across. I want to simply talk about the most effective ways of listening to my mind when I speak to you. When we listen to another person, we need to see what that really means. We need to look at the words we're hearing and the value they have or the influence they have on how we're deciding at this moment. Life is an infinite landscape of possible combinations of moments of experience. You need to simply be aware of your states of being and what you're attracting into your moment of experience. Everyone is their own moment of experience. And that is your value. So your value begins from a centered source. The energy is within you, it comes from you. The creative expression in your life is emanating from your self-awareness that is internally expressed as an external environment. When you look at what you're hearing, you will look at the words that you're hearing and you will discover how solid they are and how real they are and how attainable they are or how conveying they are. When you are listening to me or any voice in that fact, regardless of it, you need to be very patient and receive your moment. You need to hear my ideas and look at yourself and see what it really means to you. And realize that you shouldn't just be looking at what my idea means to you or the words I'm speaking about, what they really mean to you. And you should try to see and what life means to you. That's simply the end result of what I'm saying. Look at the sky and tell me where you choose your end, or does it even end? Look at the infinite life forms around you and tell me if life is only this form, in this form. It's only true from your viewpoint, from your validation of your external reflection. During my recordings, I try not to think about how I'm going to create the video or the talk. I simply, when I feel at my most vibrant state, my open state, more attentive state to my life process, that's when I turn on the camera and I let my words flow out. Life is a very interesting process, and we need to look at our interests, because our interests suggest how much we're open to listening. There's a huge difference in consciousness of someone who is tolerant and compassionate and does not look at the separation as much as he is the unification. When you look at a unified world, there's literally no judgment that can be had. There's no longer the word or, and the or breaks into what was always an and. There's never just death. There's death and the next stage of life. It is always a flowing direction that does not need to be limited to its own definition. Therefore, when I communicate, I try to tend to show certain processes other than my words of how I'm maintaining myself to even communicate to you. I have a very profound and happy understanding of my own experience of silence. I have experienced silence in my life. I've experienced states of stillness, and I have seen the awareness that has continued through those moments of experience. Just like how the clouds pass, so do your experiences. Revelation is a process that is present, and you are present So be your greatest revelation to yourself. Understand that I am suggesting and trying to light up a message that is both found in my silence and in my existential communication, and how I'm communicating to you not through just words to give you the perfect lecture, but through the moment of existence that I am, to express what I am. This is me, literally at this age, at this point of time, in spatial recognition. That is why there is a point of view I have. That is why we look at points of views. You see, when you are looking at point of views, it's also important to look at creation. You don't just tell someone your belief. You don't preach your belief to someone. You literally look at existence. I am simply sharing with you, usually, my views on life and how it's not something that's always viewable through the context of language and imagery. It is an experience that transcends its own idea of what it's experiencing. Eventually, the experience and the experiencer fade into what is present, what cannot be named, but is always here. When I look at other people around me, I realize that they are my most immediate reflection of where I've decided to live and how I've decided to be. That is how life is engaging me. It's no longer in the face of someone how life is engaging me, or it's no longer in the words of someone. It is literally a full awareness of this sphere of being that you are, this awareness you have. I'm not just this physical body. I have views. I have an eye that opens both inwards and outwards. It has looked out so outwards that it sees that outward satisfaction is its own story, and sometimes you want to close the book and go make your own, be your own myth. As a very profound and loving poet 700, 800 years ago said in his sacred hymns he was writing. He said, "Don't be satisfied with stories. Go unfold your own myth." This is what Rumi said. He literally said, don't be convinced or try to be caught in the game of figuring out what's the correct belief. Go live your being. Go be. Go be yourself. In other words, there's some ways a parent suggests, be yourself, whatever the name of the kid is, And how you receive that idea is very important. Because be yourself could be a lame idea to the comparisons of other your ideal selves. Or it can simply mean be so true to yourself that you are the truth. You see the truth. It's everywhere. You see, I'm going to bring in many ideas, and usually I tend to, when I speak, it tends to be a growing vision. It's not just about the same idea. It is also how far we can see through the ideas I speak about. Therefore, we need to understand at some level of where the word enlightenment can take you if you act on trying to understand what meditation means for you, not for anyone else, or how anyone else has defined it, and you experience your own self constantly. You realize that self does not need to be distracted by its own conceptions through time. It doesn't need to work with ideas of itself, of an inaccurate self, to have a problem for it to have to solve. You really keep the problems there because you are defining what a problem is in your life. Therefore, you can choose to be surrounded by definitions that might block out the sun to a degree where you think life is purposeless, or you can be aware that you are a changing process in a greater changing process, and at the same time, internally, you are a greater process to another smaller process, and that you are a dynamic and multiversal, multi-dimensional expression of your own existence, and that your consciousness does not need to be limited to this range of experience. For some experience hunters who, it has become very common now, who they are in their dorm room and they are in their stage on life, and they try to choose a certain cultural interest in. They take a cultural interest in how Terence McKenna spoke about psychedelics. You see, psychedelics is not, in my view, of course, wrong. But I want to tell you that if you can attain the same level of self-reflection and personal attainment to a state of being that is serene and free, you can achieve that through any object. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you have to take mushrooms, for example, or psychedelics to discover the truth that is beyond all your truths, which you're not convinced of. You can experience life very expansively and very consciously. You can choose to wear the jacket when it's cold and try to have a more conscious and efficient awareness of what is directing your experience. You can choose to be aware of just now, the present moment, or you can choose to work with maps and blueprints and plans of how your day should manifest. Regardless, it is very important to get rid of the judgments that are keeping problems alive for senses of self you had during certain experiences in your life. Do not let your past clutter your future. Do not let your unconscious, or not even unconscious, but your judgments on how life should be, to really judge your life to a degree that that is what you deserve. Self-judgment is how life will judge you, because that self is life. You are life. Self is the idea. It is simply the glasses underneath the vision. Not that underneath the vision in regards to when you wear glasses, there's a colorful way you can see life, but you don't need to see it in that way. But based on free will choice, you're choosing to look at life in this manner. And you can also receive vision. So we need to see that there's nothing wrong with looking at bright objects and discovering our existence with them. And there's nothing wrong with looking at shadows to try to receive attainment of what you are. It doesn't matter what object, what subject you choose to self-reflect to explore your existence and your experience in the moment. It is not based on the qualities of the object, because you create what those qualities mean. Self-attainment is simply discovering where your eyes begin and end, and if they really are trapped to their own dualistic conditioning or acceptance of conditioning. Because humanity has free will, you are choosing to keep your awareness to everything around you at a certain state. You can choose to enhance this. It is a personal choice. Before you choose to go to the gym and work out, or before you choose to go to the library, before you choose to go do that job and reach some form of success or abundance, where is that idea of success coming from? Is it the perfect idea of you? Does your success involve you becoming a badass mafia leader, or does it involve you becoming an efficient human being that is not unhealthy to its environment as much as it can be healthy? We need to acknowledge spectrums from the present. Do not judge life based on how you have seen it in the past. Always bring it to the center yourself and evaluate your life from the present moment. Because if you judge yourself from the past, you have that clutter, you will literally feel like you won't deserve some things because you're judging yourself. You're saying, I was a bad person. I don't deserve this. You see, you are stuck in how your duality is conceptualized to conceive you as a concept in your life. You need to become more fluid in your understanding of self. You need to understand that it is always it is not always looking for a more real story, whether it's with scientific explanation or if it's with mystical explanation or if it's any form of explanation. It doesn't matter how you're explained what you are. It doesn't matter what path you take up the mountain. Just climb. And in other words, when you hear me speak, I really hope you understand the value in you climbing the mountain rather than you just following my ideas. You working with your mental system and evolving it. You are your evolution. That is the first thing you need to take responsibility for, your existence. Your parents tell you, be responsible for your room, be responsible for this, be responsible for whatever, take care. But before that, you need to be responsible for what you are. You need to really look at what you are to be the most responsible person you can be. And after some point, it does not only function in the mental playground. It is not just a mind game. It is not just an idea. It is like after you see yourself in the mirror, you're like, okay, I don't need to just constantly see myself in the mirror. I could go be the experience. I could literally go run outside. Your understanding of who you are defines your listening, your speaking, your hearing, your communication with life, and anything else that you are seeing. You are the most important point in your life. You're the most important person in your life, and really, it is up to you to really get to know that person to see if you are where you need to be. Recheck your motivation of life. See why you're alive, and see if you're getting closer to that state of being you want to achieve. Your all omnipresence, your ecstatic, joyous being, which cannot be conceptualized. The reason it is free, it's because it's not trapped by a concept. It is not a word I'm molding to give you and literally explain something. Self-reflection is learning straight from life rather than seeking the wisdom of a guy's beard who's grown longer than it has to. It's self-exploration, moment exploration. Eventually, one can reach a sense of experience, in my view, of course, in the path that I've gone, that your relationship with your thoughts change to a degree that you can experience that. In other words, you can envision for yourself, regardless of whatever outline you want to give to how the mind works. You can reach states where if you have a thought, you can be it. You can experience it, and it could be any thought. Similar to how you're being the thought of your name, you can be other ideas, you can be other senses of being and receive that experiential widening through. You can be more than who you are now. You can be just as much as the clouds above your head as you can be the atoms collapse in your minutest self. When you look at life, you see that when we are looking at a planet which the human beings need to be more connected, more efficiently communicating, more compassionate, more transcending their own limitations, you realize how that is actually done by planetary awareness first. So you need to sit down, if you're a child, if you're not a child, or anyone, if you're a human being, you need to sit down and look at the meaning of life you have kept for yourself that is running your game. And to see if you still want to play a game or you want to actually do something that's very functional. When we get over our own death, literally when we get over the idea of our own death, we become selfless. We understand that this body is going to die, so the idea of me is going to die, so I don't need to take my ideas so seriously about how I feel I'm being judged or how life is. You become selfless, and the selflessness is transcendent, it's transparent in its quality, and what that really means is that when we are present and experiencing, the duality shrinks of your experience. Literally, your difference between your sense of other and self, literally that difference, me and other, it dissolves into the value of the experience that's happening in the present moment, which is everything. When you have this state, it is simply where your ideas no longer matter. You are the experience. And that is the closest peak that one can touch the experiencer's heavens. In other words, that's the oneness of the experiencer. To see that the experience is the experiencer. It is a moment where your dualities fade, and literally it's a cleanup of your body, in my view. In other words, the energies in your body fade. In other words, if you have a very real idea of yourself, the unreal bullshit literally falls off. It's dust on your shoulder, which you don't need to worry about. You realize worry was only a process of giving attention to a certain formed idea about yourself which never needed to be there. Right now, above all, it is no longer important to just speak. It is important to speak your actual experience, really what you're experiencing, not creating stories. And regardless, when I say not creating stories, please take this in the context that you don't try to be someone else. You are the evolving you that could never be defined, and it's selfless in its expression. You literally become the God in which you thought was your creator. You are the experience of it. You're not human or God. You are the God that was always inside the human. You are existence without needing to read a book or listen to an idea. That is a healthier route to take. In other words, if you are not where you want to be financially, if you're not where you want to be in regards to the ideas you have about your life, that's fine. Understand that you have an expectation, you're not there, but you're going to evolve to that because that's where you want to be. However, also taking the time to understand that the ideas around you are affecting the expectation you have of yourself. Have good ideas about yourself. Really be self-aware, self-reflect, and recognize that listening, even though we've gone into a lot of our ideas, listening is listening to yourself as well. You're not just listening to someone else. You're also listening to what you are. You are hearing. You're present. Your senses are acknowledging both other human beings and also your own humanity as well. To self-reflect on that acknowledgement of your humanity and your presence, what your presence really is. What does presence mean? Your presence is not your popularity. Your presence is not the ideas of how you should be in a social dynamic. Your presence is simply your life energy. What are you? What are you expressing as? How connected are you? What are you aware of? Are you trying to be a person who's going to wear a suit every day to work, or are you trying to be a person who also appreciates taking off the suit as much as putting it on? You choose the type of human being you want to be. You choose the type of life you want to experience in your life. And if you take it towards ideas that are calm, that are compassionate, that are honest to the truth that cannot be named, literally it cannot be a belief because you don't need to name it. It is a existential presence that is its own technology, is its own capability, is the turning point of Gaia. We are the rotations of Gaia. It is not we are rotating on Gaia. We are experiencing all cyclical flows in regards to our cosmic fractals. And it is always a breath of fresh air to see why you're breathing and why you're alive. And you will see gratefulness, again, is not a word that needs to be there. It's just a state that comes. You appreciate that you're alive. You're not hating it because you're not somewhere you haven't reached, for example. To adjust your personal experience and to bring yourself at a comfortable level of experiencing life makes you much more able to hear ideas, because you don't have judgment from the past. You're literally like, no, that idea is wrong based on that I heard there, for example. There's literally not reaction to comparison or comparative judgment. There's literally no reaction to see a difference. And people need to understand that if you're someone who, let's say, you're very proud, you are very, you know who you are, you are comfortable with what you are, you need to also let people who are not comfortable with themselves to also become comfortable with who they are and then take their judgment. In other words, if someone is being very aggressive towards you, judgmental, perhaps sexist, racist, whatever to you, you need to see what kind of human being you're acknowledging. You need to see if you're looking at a human being who's looked at itself, or you're seeing simply the role play of another past incident in their lives, expressing now into whatever their disagreement is. You can either have agreement with life or you can have disagreement with life. And you see, when you have disagreement, sometimes it's disagreeing with your thoughts that you've always agreed. It's as if you're not so defined by the intensity you're looking at your disagreements. You're keeping it lucid. Bruce Lee has this awesome saying that goes around in the way where he says, "Be like water, my friend." You know, and he's not talking about be like a water trapped in a bottle with an idea and stuff. Understand that you flow. Understand that you grow. Understand that you are change. Understand that life is change, life is growth, life is expanding. Time is simply how connected you are to an experience of what you conceive to be your past. And when he says be like water, he means that when you hit a problem, don't try. Water doesn't try to break the rock. Water very lucidly, selflessly goes through. In other words, if someone comes and tells you the world's about to end, this is the apocalypse, you're like, I can see that world. What do I need to be of that world? And you see that regardless of the physical turbulence we can always have an aware and awakened internal state, because it is not based on the physical condition. It is not based on your self-awareness is not always based on your physical body or your mental body. There's an existential body, which I'm going to imply now, which I have always implied, but it is that look of life where you literally have no idea and you're seeing. Therefore, listen always with graceful ears. Listen when you're calm, and hopefully after you listen to this, you become much more calm and you realize that before you really see what kind of life you're living, you're the one choosing who you are to be judged in your mind, in your self-reflection. Self-reflection is looking at the mirror. It begins with a longing. In other words, I want you to think that you're a reflection in a mirror. And you literally stop for a second and really look at yourself. You literally look at what that reflection is, and you see that same eye is the same eye of the person who's outside of the mirror, who was never in the mirror. Our lives are holographic because that is how an idea experiences itself. Existence is not limited to programs when there is no programmer. And that has been the light that was always present. That's why many people intuitively know harmony wins, because you, as a human being, survival is reaching your next moment of harmony. Evolution is reaching a more harmonious state with the changes of your life, with the changes of physical landscape. And in those still and silent glimpses of our own existential self-comfort and self-reflection, we find that we can see some very beautiful things. And you don't need psychedelics, you don't need anything, you don't need turbulence and external change. Regardless of the external change, you can see the existential relationship you have. You can see what you are. And it is getting rid of the mental clutter that has cluttered your view of life. Clarity is a choice. You can choose to watch the same TV shows, or you can choose to have the same range of experiences. You choose your comfort zone. You can choose to literally throw away the comfort zone and boom, just experience things. Realize that comfort can never be a definition when you're always changing. You know, you don't need to be caught in your past. You don't need to be the excuse of a madman. You don't need to be alone in how you project a lonely life for yourself. We are connected. Find your connections not only through noise and how you speak to others and how you study or learn or something, also through stillness of silence. It's the silent awareness. That moment before you go into your dream states, literally that moment when you're silent in your bed and your thoughts are fading into a different texture. And be comfortable breathing in any way you want. No one can choose how you breathe. You choose. You are how the harmony of your breath. You are the heartbeat that is flowing. Your body and your physical processes know where they're headed in this changing world. It is your self-reflective consciousness that needs to explore its own existence in a way where it is its own clarity. Thank you. And be your own clarity.